Afternoon, church. Thanks for tuning into today's devotion. We're going to recap over last week's sermon. But just as a reminder, this year we're going through the theme of knowing Jesus to live like Jesus. And the theory behind it is that if we can know Jesus better, his character, who he is, what he did, and his mission, then we'll be more likely be able to live like him and or bring glory to him through what we do. And so at the moment, we're doing a little mini-series on the I am statements. And last week, we looked at John 6:25-70. But I want to ask you a question. Before we even get into the passage, I want to ask you a question. Where do you find nourishment in your life? Where do you seek it out? What is it that you feed upon in order to give your body or your mind sustenance? Now, there are so many different things in this world. It might be that you feed on certain books that help you kind of relax or help you kind of rejuvenate your energy and that kind of stuff. It might be that you like shopping. You might like certain foods. You might like certain relationships that help you feel nourished. Well, in the passage that we looked at on the weekend, Jesus teaches the crowd that he is the bread of life, offering them an eternal nourishment that transcends any of our physical needs. And it would be so easy to look at the crowd and what they're asking for and the fact that they keep seeking these things out and have a sort of cultural snobbery about it. But we have to reflect upon, or how do we live our lives? After feeding the 5,000 people, the crowd follows Jesus and they're seeking another miracle to satisfy their physical hunger. They want more manna. And Jesus explains that they are pursuing the wrong kind of food, that it is temporary, material sustenance, when what they truly need is spiritual nourishment, which only he can provide. How familiar does that sound? That they are continuing to seek out the wrong kind of food. Temporary things that will not last, that only give a material sustenance. But Jesus is trying to point them towards something greater. He says, no, I'm the bread of life. You need to come to me for an eternal spiritual nurturing and sustenance. Jesus emphasizes that he is the source of eternal life and challenges the crowd to seek him for spiritual fulfillment, not just a material gain. He uses the metaphor of eating his flesh and drinking his blood to signify a deep, ongoing relationship with him that is necessary for eternal life. And despite the difficulty of his teaching, he calls us to do the same. But as we see in the passage, many of his followers reject him and they turn around. But Peter affirms that Jesus is the source of eternal life. He says, no, God, where else am I going to go? I only want to feed on you. And it's the same thing we're called to do. To look to Jesus, to feed on him, to build a strong relationship with him that will get us through and fill us up and be everything that we need, rather than feeding on material things or even nice foods or clothes or seeking it out in relationships when they will actually never fill us up. The passage that we looked at calls believers to reflect on their motivation for following Jesus. It emphasizes that true discipleship requires embracing Jesus for who he is, not just what he can give us. That is so important. It requires embracing Jesus for who he is, not just what he can give us. And so as we go throughout the week, what is the deeper hunger in your life that Jesus is calling you to recognize and to then get spiritual nourishment from him for? In what ways do you sometimes treat God as a provider of material benefits rather than seeking a deeper relationship with him and eternal life? And when you face difficult teachings in the Bible, just like the people in the story, do we struggle in our faith and walk away from Jesus? Or do we turn to Jesus and seek more, look to him and get nourished by him? So as we go throughout the rest of our day, let's have a think about, what are we feeding on? And where should we really be looking to? Hope you guys have a lovely afternoon and rest of your week. Take care.